check. I'm a software engineer at the MBA and a member of WiST. And we wanted to provide these webinars. This is our second one for you guys, just as a way to sort of provide a community of other women in sports tech and some advice during this time. And also hopefully this will continue after when we all go back to our jobs and things feel a little bit more normal, and just help get more women involved in sports tech.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Hi, everyone. I'm Lydia Hanowich. I work at Catapult Sports as a business development associate, and I'm also a part of the WiST team. But we're really excited to get this second webinar going. WiST presents how I got into sports tech. So today we have Jill Stelfox and Jess David from our WiST team. So we'll get a lot of good insight. So we have Jill. So she's the WiST treasurer and co-CEO of EDGY Inc., a business strategy execution company based in Silicon Valley. And she's also the former vice president and general manager of Zebra Technologies.
And Jess is currently the marketing manager of sports partnerships at Intel. She's focused on the NBA and global football, which we know as soccer. She was named to the Forbes 30 Under 30 sports class of 2020. Congrats. And Synopsis Best of the Best Rising Stars 2020. Also congrats. Prior to Intel, Jess was the director of marketing at 76 Capital in Philadelphia, a venture capital firm focused on sports tech, esports, and sports betting. And Jess is now a West Coaster, but still on the East Coast, I guess. I'll leave it to them to introduce themselves. Jess, do you want to introduce yourself, and then Jill?
Sure, happy to. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody, for showing up in these crazy times. I hope everybody's doing well and taking time for themselves, finding ways to stay sane and work-life balance. I actually read last night that people are working on an average 3 hours more per day from home than in general. So I hope you're all taking time to take care of yourselves. Other than that, I am also starting a new job, as Sydney mentioned, at Intel Sports. So my background has been primarily in marketing and design, and I'm excited to talk to you all about my very non-linear shift from education to agencies, into finance, and into sports, and now into technology and sports. So really thankful to be here, and appreciate y'all showing up today.
Great. Thanks, Jess.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Jill. I'm also located on the West Coast. My background in sports is also kind of varied. Previous to getting into sports, I ran 3 venture capital-backed companies, raised $50 million in venture, and returned $1 billion to investors. And then I went to work for Zebra Technologies, where we became the player tracking system for the NFL, which now on television you see it as Next Gen Stats. Started that project with them in 2013 and worked with the league for 6 seasons. And one of the things I'm most proud about is that we won the first ever sports technology award in 2014. And of course it was won by a woman, which is awesome. So that's me.
Awesome. Thanks, Jill. So we'll start off with some questions, is kind of talking about your journey into sports tech, and then we'll transition to questions from the Google form that people submitted. So our first question is, what inspired your interest in sports tech in the first place? Why sports tech over another industry?
Sure, I'll take that one. I have always been interested in sports, as we all know. I'm sure you're all sports fans as well. And I'll tell a funny story because I never thought I'd be working in sports, but as my mom, who's on this call actually listening, huge supporter, thank you, was moving out of our childhood home these past couple of weeks, I was helping her move and going through all of my old things. And there were so much sports memorabilia, so many things that I designed as a kid. I designed brochures and newsletters and websites at 10 years old, just for fun. And I said to her, how did you not see that in the future I'd be working in marketing in sports? Like, it just wasn't something that we thought was going to be my career path, even though all the signs were there. So it had always been something that brought my family together, and going into marketing and design, I knew was the right option for me. I had started in business with a scholarship to JMU, and then transition over to design, and really use that as a tool to go from industry to industry, because everybody needs marketing, everybody needs design. So I sort of used that as a way to jump from different things I was interested in. I always say I was, really passionate about astronomy and would love to have worked for NASA and gone to space, but I'm not smart enough. So I got NASA as a client in graphic design. And that was my way of kind of getting into these different industries that I was passionate about. And when sports, became something that 76 Capital was focused on, originally we were focused on consumer facing tech and retail. This was it was like the cherry on top after I took the job to find out that we were transitioning into sports. So it really kind of came just by organically following my instincts. And this move into Intel Sports recently was also just by building relationships and getting to know myself and kind of taking risks in places I didn't plan to be.
Yeah, my story is similar in that I grew up playing sports. Soccer was at the time what women could play. Played soccer all the way through college. And then, there wasn't much for women after that, at least at my age. And so I've always loved sports. Then I got married, met my husband, who is an avid football player, and became kind of a football analyst, if you will, and fell in love with the game. Believe it or not, the 49ers, even though that's my home team, that's not my favorite team. So it is my husband's favorite team, which causes trouble, but and so fell in love with football. I never expected that I could find a career in sports. I actually got my degree in accounting and became a CPA. And my goal was to get into the boardroom. That was my goal. And then the fact that I got there in sports just became like amazing. It was actually kind of fascinating. The first time I found myself in a owners meeting with the NFL where I was presenting, I was just like, I can't even believe I got here. Like, because my path was very varied to get here. I was not lucky enough to have like a direct path into sports.
Awesome. Thank you guys both for the insight there. I guess I had another question sort of related to your past response about how did you land your first job in sports tech, and when in your career was that? And so what were the key connections you made or platforms you used, actions you took to break into the sports and sports tech industry?
So for me, the way that we did it, I was actually at Zebra Technologies, and we had player tracking technology, RFID technology, that we knew would work in sports. And so I just started calling leagues. It was actually interesting. I just am a kind of a persistent person. So I did enough research to figure out who I would need to talk to, who would be interested in what we have. And rather than going team by team by team, I thought, why not call the league office? And so we called the NHL, the NBA, the NFL. And interestingly enough, we ended up working with all of them at some point along that kind of time frame. But I kind of had no shame in the game in that, so what if they reject me? I'm sort of rejected now. They're not my client now. So like, why not give it a go? And I'm kind of one of those people, and maybe I learned this in sports, right? Like you win some and you lose some, and when you lose, you just fight harder. And so when they would tell me no, I would think, no, they don't mean no. They mean that I haven't communicated the value of this technology well enough. So I need to like keep explaining, keep calling them and keep stalking them. And so eventually we got the NFL to listen. And from that point on, it sort of took off. So.
Jill, I love that persistence. That's always something that I think just in general women struggle with, is being as persistent and as confident as you were. So I love that that's where you came from. For me, I was telling the WiST ladies last night a really funny story about how I got where I am today. Can really all be traced back to a somewhat sketchy post on Craigslist. So my first job that I took outside of my internships after college was through Craigslist. And I had applied to 75, I think, jobs, moved back in with my parents, thank goodness, had a safe place to stay where I could be pretty picky about where I wanted to take my career on my first step, and left no stone unturned. So I really dug deep into what are the things I'm passionate about, what kind of cities would I want to live in, and the different mediums that we had at our disposal back then, including Craigslist for job postings. So as I, went through the process and decided to go with a job that paid significantly less than another offer I had, that was a gut instinct. I just knew that I needed to be true to myself and go with something that I thought would really be valuable and enjoyable day in and day out, even if that meant I wasn't going to have as much money as another job. So that was a tough decision for me. It ended up being the right one, obviously. This agency that I ended up working for, based here in the Philadelphia area, was very empowering for me to kind of take things into my own hands and launch a branding studio within the organization, not focused on sports whatsoever, but a client of mine ended up being 76 Capital. And just by treating that relationship right, by staying in touch with them, always trying to put my best foot forward, when we were in that client agency relationship, several years later, this job posting came up for the director of marketing at 76, and I had maintained a good relationship with them. I think that's part of the key to life, is to stay in contact with those that you respect and want to learn from and want to work with, not necessarily that you want something from, even people you can provide value to. I'm a big believer in keeping strong relationships. My best friend of 10 years is on this call right now because I just refuse to let people go that I love in my life. So the same happened for 76. And when that job posting came up, they already knew my work ethic. They already knew my style of delivering, and that I could deliver, that I didn't just say what I was going to do, that I actually did it. So there's certain qualities that you're going to want to get across to everybody and not necessarily have an end goal. So when that job came up and they empowered me to rebrand the whole firm, take us in the direction of sports, we really went all in together. And, they thankfully had such a small team. It was just 3 of us at the time. So we all traveled together, made as many connections as I could with them, including here at Intel Sports. So it wasn't necessarily that I was looking to make the next move in my career, but that the right opportunity presented itself again, just by staying in touch with people, specifically Sandra Lopez at Intel, who is just an incredible leader. She's an advisory board member at WiST as well, an amazing person to know, so inspiring, so hardworking, really taking care of her team. Even the 2 weeks that I've been here have been really impressive. So I'm excited to have her leadership to learn from. And again, I try to plan as much as I can, but understand that a lot of it is out of your control, and just based on who you are as a person, I think the right things will come your way.
No, that's awesome insight. And I love how you paired both your passion and persistence. That definitely, carries you throughout that journey, and recognizing those passions early on. It's important to stay true to that. Yeah. I love it. Our next question is, what does your typical day look like in your job?
For me right now, it's just like furiously reading through contracts and old presentations, marketing decks, trying to sponge as much as I can about Intel Sports as a whole. But every day is different, and I'm sure Jill has the same experience, especially being on the entrepreneurial side where hour by hour can change. But for me, in the morning, I like to catch up on emails, catch up on newsletters. It's been a little bit depressing lately to catch up on the news, but I do believe it's important to stay informed and then transition into the right headspace if you need to. So I'm doing a lot of research right now, a lot of one-on-one relationship building with my team, transitioning to a corporation like Intel with 100,000 employees is very different than the firm that I just came from, where we went from 3 to 10. So right now I'm just trying to get to know everybody's personalities and understand their role and specifically how I can help them. I want to make sure that everybody knows I'm here to be a resource for them. And yeah, it's been really nice getting to know everybody at the team so far, but I'm sure in a couple weeks I'll have a different answer for you.
So the nice thing at EDGY now is we work with a whole bunch of sports related properties. Two of them, Nike and Spartan Race. And I would say that based on COVID-19, both of the worlds have changed a lot. And so what I did prior to that is a lot of helping them with outbound marketing and branding. What I do, well, and actually technology around how to use technology to track your fan, know your fan, communicate with your fan. And interestingly enough, both of them and most of our clients have changed dramatically because of COVID-19. And so we were able to, for example, work with Spartan to take their entire business, which was an event-based business, to an online-based business in about 7 physical days. But that, that level of effort took almost 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It was insane. But the one thing I would say that has served me well throughout my career is dedicating, and I know this sounds a little crazy because we're all busy, but I dedicate 2 hours a week to what I call networking mentor time, to making sure that I check in with my mentors, that I do some kind of networking, that I meet new people in this space. And the best thing, by the way, I think about, being a woman is that, we can, I think we're great communicators and we can, do that really well. And so that's one thing I do for sure. The nice thing about COVID-19 is, where people are, they're home. And so you can get to more people than you suspect now. And so if there's that person that you've always wanted to get to know or whatever, that's your mentor, this is a good time to stalk them. Great time.
Well, I think you're doing great with your mentorship hours right now, and talking to all of us and helping out a ton of women on this call. So we appreciate that. And I have another question for you guys, for both of you. What's your favorite part of your job and what's the most challenging? And I guess for Jess, feel free to answer based on either job you have, because I think it would be hard to say what your favorite part is in 2 weeks, but yeah.
Yeah, for both where I am now at Intel and previously at 76, who I know a couple of them are on the call, which I appreciate, is working with people that are continually trying to build new and innovative things in an industry that, in my opinion, really brings the world together and brings so much joy, especially now in these really unprecedented times. People are looking to sports, not live, but even in the past, and things like The Last Dance that are really bringing people together in such a positive way. So for me, it's just the underlying essence of sports being such a unifier in the world, globally, and the fact that everybody that I work with day in and day out, whether that's on the Intel product side or the engineering side or the marketing side, is really trying to do something completely innovative and game changing, and being around people that are thinking in that way day in and day out, just that's what inspires me to get up and not leave this one room that I've been in for a month, actually day 42 now, and stay healthy, and to try to do my best each and every day is really like leaning on the rest of my team and helping each other kind of balance our energy out. That's been fun.
So I would say for me, the most fun is definitely having a seat at the table to make real change in these organizations is literally amazing. You know, I remember standing the first time that we showed the player tracking system live on television. It was a really bad graphic. If anyone ever Googled like the original Next Gen stat on television, we literally lit up all 53 players and it just looked ridiculous. It was a crazy graphic. Anyway, but we knew then that we had like changed the game. And what we just did was Spartan change the game. And that is super fun, where you could be in an industry where you could impact a lot of people. I think that's great. The challenge, because I think there are a lot of challenges, because it's sports, I think the people that work in the organizations are competitive. And so it's a highly competitive environment, and you just gotta compete. You know, you have to be sort of tough and believe in yourself and compete. Because if, you know, very similar to if you play any kind of sport, right? If you don't practice, do your homework, do all the right stuff, and compete, which is kind of like a mental game, I think that that's just a really important skill. You might get from, you know, what I said before, I don't take no lightly. That can't possibly stop me. So don't let it stop you, you know, like really think about the mental game of being competitive in your job and continue to compete. So.
Awesome. Should we get to some of the questions submitted by you guys? And I think that will be awesome. What are you guys both binge watching now?
Tiger King, right? How dysfunctional was that? So fabulous.
I put that on for 5 minutes and was like, I can't do this.
Yeah, I was the same way. I watched 2 episodes.
Yeah, I also couldn't do it. I don't know.
We've been watching the Formula One series on Netflix, which is spectacular if anybody is interested. I wasn't a huge Formula One fan before. My husband and I definitely watched some of the major Grand Prix, but the documentary is so well done. Like, the cinematography is really nice. The stories are captivating, but not too over the top. Yeah, I've been really loving that one. And then I do typically watch It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia at least once a day. So that's like my end cap.
Awesome. And then our next question is, what skills do you think are critical to learn in sports tech?
So I would say, like, there are a group of skills that I follow with me no matter what I'm doing, whether I'm just trying to get on a board of WiST and hunting down Mary Lou, which I did, trying to get the Forbes Award, which was something that I had on my to-do list, and I hunted down 4 or 5 people there that I knew I wanted to get in touch with. Very similar to Jill's message on persistence, is really setting these what you seem to think are unattainable goals. You know, I never thought that I would be on a Forbes list. Like, that was a dream of mine, but I never thought it was possible until I worked backwards and said, okay, if that's what I want to do, what are the 3 things that I need to do to get there? And really just day in and day out, stay focused on what those milestones are so that you can slowly chip away at things that you think are impossible. If you want to be a first female, you know, commissioner of a league, figure out how you can work backwards and get there. If you want to be the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, which would be amazing. In my interview, I told Intel I wanted to be the CEO of Intel because they knew, they had to know I was a little bit crazy and that I had goals that were just beyond the sky. So for me, it's not about being, really airy and wishy-washy in your dreams, and they can change, of course, over time, but set really impossible goals for yourself and work backwards from there. It helps kind of create a sense of purpose, but then it also helps when you set these mentorship times, like Jill mentioned. I love that advice, setting time to find the people that you want to connect with. You can really kind of hone in on a couple of industries or teams or leagues or job functions that you think would be valuable to just make connections in the future and see how you can help one another.
Yeah, for me, in terms of skill sets, gosh, I agree with everything you just said, Jess. I also focus on a technical skills, I guess. I love the math of it and the statistics of it. And I remember getting caught in a big conversation about what is the math of speed, of the calculation for speed of a player on a football field. Which is interesting because, by the way, we all learned the calculation for speed in our math classes in high school, but none of us would ever remember the formula. And it's not so simple. And so I really like the math of it as well. And so that's been something that I keep learning about. I read a lot of books about it. I watch a lot of webinars about it. One of the best things about what's going on now in COVID-19 is whether it's MIT or Northwestern or Stanford, there's tons of great classes on sports analytics out there that you can just take for free. So like jump on that when you're bored. Instead of watching Tiger King, you could do that.
Awesome. Yeah, I've been taking HubSpot courses. That's been really useful, but yeah, there's definitely a lot out there. Excellent. So our next question is, throughout your journey, what have been the biggest setbacks that helped you grow?
I remember being told really early in my career that because I was female, it would be unlikely that I would be successful in the boardroom in a sports-related industry. And I thought, okay, awesome. I'm going to do it for sure now. So I think sometimes people tell you that you can't do stuff. And I think that, at least for me, brings fuel to the fire. I, keep one of those vision boards, and right next to it is a board of either people or things that told me that I couldn't achieve, so that I stay focused on what I can achieve. And so, yeah, I think a lot of times there's both politics and, people that try and hold you down, and you just got to figure out a way around it. If you ever played sports, you did that in sports. Like, you figured out a way to win. So just figure it out.
Yeah, I completely second that. I'm very good at slowly letting people go that are not either building me up or just clearly on my team. So I have a very close core group of people, family and friends, and my husband, of course, that are always on my side, that I can lean on when I either get down or doubt myself or can't get past a certain problem. So I think it's really important to have that core group of people that you can lean on and build a support system. You can help them and they can help you. And I'm sure y'all have those people, but definitely this is the time to make sure you maintain those relationships when we're all stuck at home. But for me, the biggest challenge, I would say, in my career is not necessarily that people tell me I couldn't do anything, but as Mary Lou's talked about before, the mission behind WiST is to change the ratio. And frequently, I'm sure we've all had this experience, you walk into a room or a boardroom, a meeting, or a networking event, and you're the only woman in the room. I've frequently walked into packed networking events and my coworkers would say, oh, there's a couple other women here. I'm like, yeah, those are the girlfriends of the players. They're not the business partners or decision makers, which is fine. I've glad to have representation and somebody to talk to, but it's not the same. And to be able to get that point across to people who feel like that helps validate our mission is not quite the case. So I've had a big challenge in personally having to overcome my feeling of, do I deserve to be here? And I'm sure we've all had those feelings, especially looking 10 years younger than I am, being 5 foot tall. It's really easy for people when I have one-on-one conversations to literally just be looking over me and scanning the room. And I'm like, hi, yeah, I'm down here. I can help you. You may not realize that, but you know, I'm hardworking. I'm in sports. I'm a decision maker. Bring it down here. So I've been focused on being more and more outspoken when those situations arise, to not wait until after the fact and hem and haw about, you know, why this conversation didn't go the way I wanted it to, but really to be a little bit more upfront about, hey, I'm here and here's what I bring to the table, instead of sitting back and staying quiet, which I'm not known to do. So.
Awesome. Thank you guys. I have another question related to women's sports in general as well. Is how can women in sports tech impact, create change, and be a resource for women's sports? We saw the successful WNBA draft last week. Everyone's talking about how the NFL draft went virtual and went really good, but some people are forgetting the WNBA draft did it first. Yeah. I don't know if you guys have any insight there.
Yeah, I mean, I think between that and what the U.S. women's national soccer team has been able to accomplish over the past year has been an incredible step forward for women in sports in general. And my previous work with 76 Capital was really focused on empowering athletes to get involved in the business world and create a voice for themselves. So I think going forward, both, you know, WNBA and U.S. women's national soccer team, among all the other female sports, it's about finding partners and agencies, brands, sponsors that are willing to back these athletes outside of their sport. So we've seen, you know, people like LeBron and Steph who have an incredible voice and reach on their social platforms and through TV shows and online, you know, video series. It's how do we offer more of those to the female influencers? Like, I love the show that Rapinoe and Sue Bird are doing weekly, that type of content where they can really build an audience, and start to showcase who they are off the court. I think that's really where the NBA has seen so much success, and Sid, you know this better than anybody, that they've been able to build a following with players just as much as teams now. And if we can kind of get to that personal level with female athletes, obviously, you know, the biggest story around the WNBA was Sabrina. So that it's in and of itself, like, how do we take that and amplify it for other female athletes around the world? I know I'm talking a lot and I know I'm talking fast because I get really excited about these kinds of things. But I do think that there's a lot of hope for the future, and it's really about like making sure that they have the resources they need to do the job.
Yeah, no, awesome. And you weren't talking a lot, very passionate about it, and we appreciate that. That's what we need. Jill, do you have any thing you want to add here?
So the one thing I would say is I think we women are just starting to get, you know, lift on all of these, you know, kind of topics about women in sports tech and women athletes owning their careers. And one of the ways that we can continue to be successful is that we all support each other in doing that. We highlight each other. We talk about it. We put it out over our social media, right? And we all together come and support what we're seeing around women being successful. I think it's one of the things that happened in the past is that we didn't highlight women enough, and us women didn't support each other enough in that. And so that's one thing. It's really funny because I always say this, you know, people that know me well, I'll say I'm super competitive in the business world, but not with women. Because like, I want you to partner and succeed with me. And so I think that that's one of the important things. And by the way, there's some fabulously enlightened men out there who are helping us achieve all of this, right? Some of them are on this webinar. And so highlighting that as well, I think is great. So.
Awesome. I love that. And we're all growing together. And that's really the beauty of WiST, connecting women in all fields. And I think just being a part of WiST myself has definitely helped grow my confidence. And never thought I'd be on this webinar today. So it's been really cool to look back and see how WiST has supported me. Our last question is, what do you think the sports industry is going to look like in 1 year, 5 years, or the next 10 years?
Oh my gosh, if 1 year from now, I think it's going to be a party like we've never seen. I think sports is going to come back so quick. In fact, by the way, Sports Innovation Lab, Molly, I think is on this call. Sports Innovation Lab put out some great information about what they kind of see as the future. And Sports Innovation Lab, if you don't know them, just a quick plug, they do a lot of work in sports kind of behind the scenes, with all leagues worldwide, getting the pulse of what's going on. So I think, first of all, it's going to be a party like nobody's business. I also think technology in sports will only get bigger and better. There's going to be more opportunity, more technology, more everything, because this idea of fan engagement is going to be very personalized. You're going to have to track your fan through multiple sports, multiple venues, and even home. And so I think that there's going to be a lot of opportunity where there's industry expertise outside of sports that needs to come into sports. And I'll give you a great example. Retail has been great at tracking and owning their customers through loyalty programs. And if you happen to come out of a retail background where you do that in sports is going to become a big deal, to be able to track and loyal fans wherever they might be. So I think it's going to be a party.
Jill, that's a really interesting point and segue into our thesis at 76, which was that we had partners from the retail background, sports, and venture capital, traditional technology. So it was really marrying those three things that we had a vision for the future, and the team here still does. But at Intel specifically, it's been incredible to see their focus on volumetric video going forward and what the broadcast will look like, what fan engagement will look like from a mobile app perspective, really being able to personalize and customize the content that you see, but then also the content that you create and put out if that's your personality or if you're a creator. So I've really been interested in seeing deeper on the Intel side, the technology that they're putting forward to innovate in all three of those spaces. I still believe very strongly in the thesis of 76, because I was there for so long, that sports betting and esports will make huge waves in the future. Sports betting, for, the past, whatever, however long it's been, James is on the call, he could probably chime in about how long it's been legal, has really taken the forefront until as of late when there are no more live games. But that's an industry that did not just come into existence. It has been in existence for many, many, many years and is just now legal. So I think really for entrepreneurs to be able to openly take advantage of that situation and apply technology is going to be incredible. We've also seen esports and gaming really take a hold with this COVID-19 situation. Traditional players, drivers, athletes of all types are leaning on the ability to play video games remotely and compete still in a digital setting, where we were trying to convince people prior to this situation that was what this generation wanted to see in the future. I think Twitch has seen, I can't remember the numbers exactly, but their most impressive growth over this past month, due to the fact that this is like the new sports that people can take part in. Not saying we'll be living in a COVID lifestyle forever post-COVID, but I do think it'll help accelerate the esports industry greatly. And I'm very excited to see what comes of that.
Awesome. Thank you guys both for the insight there. And I think those both are great predictions. And even last night, I think with the NFL draft, we saw even without sports, there was some content they were running just about, what were the over-unders where players were going to get picked. And I'm sure they were really vamping that up because of betting opportunities, legal betting through DraftKings, FanDuel, and other vendors. So we're going to wrap up now. We wanted to take a group picture before we ended. So if you want to turn your camera on, if it's not on, feel free to do that now. We'll post it on our LinkedIn, which we'll share in a follow-up email, how to follow us on all our social media platforms, just to stay up to date with everything great that's going on. And if you don't want to be in the picture, obviously, no need to turn your camera on. So this is
my picture.
A choice. And we hope to see you on our next webinar. We'll send a follow-up again with a form. Hopefully you guys can give us some good insight there as well. And thank you so much to our panelists, Jess and Jill, for giving great insight today for all of us.
Thank you all for having me and for listening. And I do want to say I'm actually dropping into the chat my LinkedIn URL. I would love to get connected with all of you, and just if I can help in any way, would love to stay in touch with all of you guys.
Same here. Find me on LinkedIn or Twitter, either one. DM me.
Awesome, and we'll share those links as well in the post webinar follow-up email that will hopefully go out later today. So thank you all again so much for joining. This was awesome, and we hope to see you at our next webinar.
Cool.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everyone.
guys.
Be well.
Cool.
Bye.